Hello and welcome back to the review of my channel, MyFileScore.exe. Today we're going to look at the introduction to probability and expected frequency. So yeah, just keep that bear in mind. And for some example problems, I will do that in some separate videos in the same playlist. So hope you guys enjoyed this video and hope you enjoy this. Alright, first thing is about probability. So probability is basically the measure of the likelihood or the likeliness of a certain event. So it is defined as so the probability will be the number of ways that event could occur all over the total number of ways, which is including the number of ways that event could occur plus probably some other possibilities of any other events that could happen. It is often abbreviated into this formula. So P of A represents the probability of a certain event A happening. N of A in this case is the number of ways that that event A could occur. And N of S right here represents the total number of ways that could happen. Alright. So an example of this is the probability of getting a heads when flipping a coin. So here you can get heads or you can get tails. So what is the probability that you would get heads? It will be the total number of ways you can get heads when flipping a coin, which is just 1 right here. So we can just substitute that in. 1 over the total number of ways, which will be 2, right? Because we can get heads or tails, so there are 2 possible ways. Similarly, we can calculate the probability that we get a tails, which will be similar. So it will be the number of ways you can get tails, which will be this 1 over the total number of ways, which will be 2 in this case. Another thing is expected frequency or occurrence. This is defined as the expected number of times a certain event could happen given its probability and the total number of trials. So expected frequency is defined as the probability of that event happening times the total number of trials. So going to our previous example, assume that we flip a coin 10 times. The expected number of times we get heads is as follows. So I found our probability before that the probability of getting heads will be half. And then the total number of trials from the question is 10. So the expected number of times we get heads is 5. We can do the similar thing if we want to find the expected number of times we get tails. Another thing that I want to talk before ending this video is that probability ranges from 0 to 1, both inclusive. So it can be expressed as this inequality. And we can kind of look at the probability based on, I would say this is a number line, but I would call it a probability line. Just to be cool, I guess. So notice here that as the probability goes towards 0 or as the probability goes near 0, that event would occur very unlikely. And the more it gets to the middle, it will be kind of like 50-50, or it's an even probability, I guess. And the more it gets to 1, it will be most likely. And if the probability is exactly 1, it will always happen no matter how unlikely or likely you will get. And if the probability gets to 0, it will never happen whatsoever. So let's just investigate how our probability affects when it's equal to 0 or 1. So let's just work things out on this formula. So if we set our probability to be equal to 0, notice what will happen. It will make the number ways that event could happen to be zero. So what we can conclude here is that our probability is zero if there is no way for that event to happen. In contrast, if we have our probability equal to 1, we have our number of ways that event could happen is actually equal to the total number of ways. So those are just kind of like important notes to keep track of. And for example problems, I'll just do that in the next videos.